What's up, guys? I'm EJ. I'm joined by Shamari and Kendall, and thank you guys for checking out our last edition of the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode recap and review. We're talking about the season finale, One World, One People, episode 6. Guys, they had a lot of stuff to get to tie up all the loose ends of this episode and of this season. But man, what a journey it was, and this episode really delivered on some powerful moments. Gave us a really interesting look into the future, and considering some of those plans are being revealed through some trade articles that came out this weekend. This you can't help but feel excited about where everything's headed when it comes to Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes characters, and what a way to cap off their first venture with this last episode here.
Yeah, massive spoilers, obviously.
Massive spoilers.
But
as always.
But yeah, I mean, this was certainly. It kind of reminds me of WandaVision, the way this season kind of finished off in terms of.
I agree.
You kind of figured this is where it would get to, but you didn't know how it was going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And when it did, you were satisfied. You were still impressed. You were still, you were left wanting more of that character when it comes to both Wanda Maximoff and now Sam Wilson. And they do this. They do this long and incredible story. Kind of to get you from point A to point B. And they could have gotten you to point A to point B at the end of Endgame if they really wanted to, but to do it like this gave them way more content and gave those characters way more depth and way more emotion involved in those moments and in those decisions for them to evolve as characters.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this was a very, very satisfying finale. And of course, we're going to give our whole review, so we'll go into in depth as to why. But I agree. It definitely ended similarly to WandaVision in terms of leaving you satisfied. You saw your hero become the hero that you knew they had to become. And of course, there are some notable deviations, namely being that with this one, for most people, there weren't, massive expectations in terms of characters being revealed and, new,
or red herrings.
Weren't any red herrings. No one was saying.
No Mephisto theories happening on this.
There were no crazy theories.
This show.
So yeah, it was just it was just Falcon and Winter Soldier. And you're gonna get a story about Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think the only potential red herring was maybe Zemo. I was thinking Zemo was gonna play a bigger role. I remember in one of our previous reviews, I predicted that Zemo was going to be the final villain. That didn't turn out to be the case.
Yeah.
So, which we'll go into how I feel about that a little later. But stay tuned. But outside of that, everything pretty much went as planned. And I thought the show was a success overall.
Yeah, and I think that when you say that this show is reminiscent of WandaVision in terms of its finale, I agree in terms of it seems like we may be getting somewhat of a formula for how these Marvel shows are going to go. At least in terms of how they're going to end. And we'll see different showrunners, maybe they'll have different flavors, but you seem to have a penultimate episode, which is very strong, character-driven story, more backstory to kind of lead up to a final episode that is almost 100% action. And maybe after the action beats are over, maybe there will be some tying up loose ends stuff. And this episode certainly had a little bit more of that than maybe WandaVision did. But that's what we got with this episode. I mean, One World, One People brings us just right into the fight, pretty much. The GRC summit is being hijacked, and they're trying to lead these people out. What you see ends up being a pretty elaborate plot by the Flag Smashers to take the senators and all the representatives from all the countries hostage. And it brings you Sam Wilson literally flying in that new red, white, and blue suit. I mean, did you guys expect that we would just see him in the fight wearing that Captain America suit, holding the shield that early on in this episode? I think it took me by surprise a little bit. I thought that they would ease into it a little bit more. It was just, nope, there he is. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, Captain America, Sam Wilson. That was pretty
It
crazy.
absolutely took me by surprise. But it was a pleasant surprise. It was a very, very pleasant surprise. We didn't have to wait. It wasn't just, the very last scene or the final, very last act. And that was also another deviation a bit from WandaVision. In that she became Scarlet Witch, I'd seen to be at the very end. But in this one, it was like, third act of the final episode, she became Scarlet Witch. This one is like, nope, he's Cap now. And you kind of saw him, you knew when he opened that case at the end of the last episode, you knew what it was. We all knew what it was,
I was going to say, I wonder if, when I was watching that, I felt like I wondered if they should have, or even if there was a version of the show where they show you what it is in the last episode. Because something about that where, like, we don't know what it is, and then he just shows up and he's in a costume. I mean, you know where you got it from. So it's not like it was an issue, but I feel like,
you think there's a cut somewhere?
Like, we missed a moment of, like, him putting on the suit or him seeing the suit or anything. We missed a reaction. It was just, all right, I'm opening this up, and then next time
he had that deep breath where it was like a feeling of overwhelmedness in that little moment before the episode cuts off. But that's, you don't see him trying the suit and do the superhero turn into the camera. Like, that moment didn't happen. Right. It was just, or even the episode starting, there's people taking hostages, and he's flying into a building with the shield to break the glass. I mean, it was just like, we're here. There's no denying what's going on right now. And he's telling the people, I'm Captain America, very early on. So it's pretty wild.
I think that is partially a product of this being filmed like a movie, but not being a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if we were in the theater and we were watching these episodes as one, it would seem less jarring.
Right.
Because we went a whole week of wondering, I wonder what it is. I wonder if we're going to see him in the suit. And then he's just in the suit. Right. I feel like if we were watching in a theater or just watching them, I guess, all in a row, it would have been like, oh, wow, that's a cool transition. You see him looking at it, and then he's Cap.
Right. Right. That's a good point.
I
mean, I thought that was a cool start as well. I mean, obviously the costume was really cool. And I think early on they did a really good job of, he's Captain America now, and we've talked about it all season, how they've done a really good job with Falcon action, and that's probably better than they have in the MCU. Well, this episode, I feel like they did a really good job of, Falcon's, Captain America action. How does he incorporate the shield and make him, while still making him different and unique to Steve Rogers.
Yeah, seeing him use the shield in combination with his flying abilities and the wings, like even when the helicopter comes down, him able to use the shield and his wings to bounce the helicopter off from him. I mean, that was just like, I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like, it definitely adds a different flavor, because we had John Walker, we saw him use the shield as a lethal weapon. But besides that, he's using the shield in similar ways that Steve Rogers will use the shield. So this was that little nuance, some of the stuff that we saw in the action scenes with Sam was good. And it was funny, there was this like ongoing thing on the internet about how Sam can't really fight, because whenever he's in hand-to-hand combat, he hasn't actually really like clearly one up anybody. So I actually thought that scene with him and Patrick was really important to show him actually scrap and kind of get the upper hand on somebody. It's somebody who we respect in terms of their hand-to-hand abilities. So that was I love that scene. The action scene as a whole was, I tell you what, the action scenes were good and they were really entertaining. I did find them a little bit tough to follow.
It was fast-paced, it was chaotic.
It was super fast-paced. And to be fair, I mean, it was a chaotic situation. It's a terrorist attack, and though Sam does what you call them, terrorists, but something like a terrorist attack, and there's multiple people and multiple plans, and then Sharon throws herself in the mix. So when Bucky doesn't get part of the plan, Sam kind of gives him crap for it. Part of me is like, or Sharon gives him crap for it. I'm like, I forgot what he was actually trying to do, because I'm just trying to watch Sam fight Batroc with this thing, and I know he needs to get to the helicopter. So everybody's roles were a little hard to follow. This is an episode of, full disclosure, I watched on. I'm doing this review on one watch. I definitely will watch again at some point really soon. But there might have been moments to slow the chaos down a little bit to make it a little more clear. but the action was so engaging and so good. It was like, I'm just gonna follow along. Like I'll figure it out. And it wasn't at the end of the day. Like you knew at the end of the day, they gotta stop. There's all these 3 different groups of terrorists, or 3 different pockets of people being taken by terrorists. They need to stop all 3, or 2 or 3 at least. So that wasn't that hard to comprehend. Who was supposed to do what was a little hard, especially because, again, like Sam's issue with Batroc was he didn't have time to be messing with Batroc. He had to get to the helicopter because, as Bucky said, I'm not flying. That's you. But so that was probably one little critique. But I thought that those action scenes were killer. And
why do we think that they put this last episode and this final arc in New York? Like, do we feel like there was any like reason
I saw
why?
a lot of people writing like, so Spider-Man is just chilling, like he's just seeing this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder, like, man, there's a lot of heroes in New York. Like, I wonder if there's gonna be a quote unquote reason why they decided to put it in New York. But I mean, it didn't seem like there was.
There were some. I didn't get to see a definitive thing on timeline, but there was some people saying, well, Spider-Man may have been in Europe, but it was kind of hard to tell. So I need someone to do like a real serious like deep dive to give us a true timeline on like ever since Endgame. Like when does everything else take place and at what time? So it makes some kind of sense. That thing in New York was getting too hot for me to think that Peter is just like not paying attention. Somebody said, oh, well, maybe it was really late and it was a school night. I mean, possibly. It was dark. But I mean, they, you say they're voting on something, as we see with our American politics, those votes sometimes happen at, midnight because of different bureaucracy kind of things. But I wonder, New York, you would think that would have some kind of thing. But then there's also the idea of like, New York is like so America, because here you have this black man taking on this mantle, and if there's any place in the country that represents America as a melting pot, it's New York City. And having the backdrop of this city that's in the background of the Statue of Liberty, like, what's more patriotic than that, especially for this character, So I think that there were definitely symbolic reasons to pick New York for sure. Were there storyline reasons that relate to other Marvel characters? That part I don't know.
Yeah, that I don't know either. I don't think so. I think it's definitely more symbolic. I agree with EJ on that. I know Cap is from New York.
Yeah,
I was going to say
stomping ground.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing that I can think of is maybe he's from New York. He becomes Cap.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, internet, but I also feel like in the comics, I think Sam is from New York.
Yeah, someone's got to let us know in the comments. I don't know.
Maybe I'll try to look it up discreetly as we continue this video thing, but I feel like maybe. But anyway, continue.
But yeah, I mean, I thought the action was cool. It was a little dark. I think that's probably my only complaint. Sometimes it was a little dark, a little hard to see. Wasn't as bad as no.
Yeah, they gotta find a way. All these shows gotta figure out, man. Like people don't have the perfect settings in terms of their living situations. You have these super dark scenes. I'm getting glare on the TV because of the time of the day I'm watching it.
Yeah, I know they want to be able to show dark scenes and stuff, and I know there's probably an advantage to, of course, being able to do that because, of course, certain things happen in the dark. Right. But some people can't see it, especially if it's action. Like similar to that, reminds me of that
Game of Thrones episode.
Yeah, 184. Yeah, I was gonna say that Game of Thrones episode.
Yeah.
When you had all the White Walkers and it was just you had no idea. You couldn't even see. You couldn't see what was happening.
Yeah. It was like in some ways it like contributed to the horror aspect, but then sometimes it was like I literally didn't know what's going on.
It did, but it was just you knew you had to be able to at least see what was happening. You couldn't see what was happening. This wasn't that bad.
And we did like the WandaVision last scene or the last fight with her and Agatha. Like that was, I think a lot of people appreciated the fact that you knew what was going on. You could see what was going on. Right. You didn't know everything was happening. And so, look, I mean, that's something that I think Marvel's has to take into account. I mean, you can have great, like the X-Men, the original X-Men movie, its last scene is its last arc is really good, but
And
come to go.
also, I want to see Falcon's suit. I want to see his suit, his wings in like full color, like in the bright daylight.
Yeah.
You know, because that's an awesome costume.
It is.
I think that's like top tier MCU.
It's a really good costume. Yeah, it's a really good
It's.
costume.
I mean, it's like it's crazy the new wave of costumes we're getting now. I told you, I think Wanda has the best costume right now, and then Sam's Captain America costume to go right up there to the top, to near the top tier as well is, and like it just like and like you kind of get like almost like emotional and you get goosebumps when I think about, man, this was like something like so true to the comic books, like when they did Captain America Sam Wilson and you saw the suit and you're like, wow, that's the new Captain America suit for Sam Wilson, and to see them be like, we're gonna bring that to the MCU, like, and maybe that feels like so what, like, because we've had 10 years now of Marvel doing pretty comic book accurate costumes, but it's like, again, I grew up on the X-Men wearing all black, just things that like you couldn't see, even Batman wearing all black, and so many of these characters being, oh, you can't do that costume, it's too campy to do that, and to see like them say they're gonna just take the costume pretty much from the comics directly, even the red tint, the goggles, and everything, like it's gorgeous. I'm just so happy to see them to see them do that. What did you guys make of there were two additions to the last scene, the last fight? The first one I think we should talk about is John Walker, and we'll get to what happens later in the show, later in this episode. But he joins the fight. Seems like his thing is, I'm going after Carly Morgenthau. So when we saw him making that makeshift shield, which we learned very quickly is not at all vibranium or really all that feasible, because he throws that thing at Carly. Carly kicks that joint into like the the upper deck. Like, that just was not the kind of shield that probably should have been used in that kind of battle. And you realize just how potent and how crazy that like original shield is because of the pure vibranium. But what do you make of John Walker's like addition to the fight? Because he comes in and initially he's just all eyes on Carly, but as the fight moves on, he kind of becomes redeemed, and he makes the decision eventually not to go after Carly when he had the clear shot, instead to save the people. And he's right there, instead of going after those people and maybe trying to kill them. He helps set up the ruse with Sam to get them to fall right into their trap. Excuse me, Bucky. The ruse with Bucky to fall right into their trap. What did you make of how they handled John Walker in this episode? I was a little surprised.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, we talked about it. Early in the show, like, obviously, if you've seen Jessica Jones, you had that Nuke character who was very similar to John Walker. And they went full on just evil character, like you just completely lost it. Jessica Jones, like, they didn't go that route, and I kind of thought that's where they were going. I mean, we talked about it last week, like, man, like, how did we get from like he was Captain America?
Some people were asking for him to be the final villain.
Yeah, and that was a reasonable question based on what we had seen the last couple of episodes. But I mean, I'm glad they redeemed him. I think there are some people that, and I don't think there's really any John Walker fans out there, but Wyatt Russell's done a really good job. And I don't think that's somebody that you don't want to have to root against that person. As like. Just
and I'm happy he's not dead.
Yeah, exactly.
When they redeemed him, I thought that there's a chance, okay, well, maybe this will be his last episode here. But clearly that's not the case.
Yeah. I was confident that they would bring him out as U.S. agent. And some people will talk later. But, I mean, he had a really good... I thought his interactions with Bucky really worked, because they obviously didn't see eye to eye for much of this series. And how he still was kind of his corny self. But... it worked, because it was on the winning team this time. So. Just like, all right.
In some ways, Shannon, I felt like their redeeming of him felt like, and also a way to show, hey, like, he's not Steve Rogers, and he's not even Sam Wilson, but like, it doesn't mean, and he's not the greatest person, but it doesn't mean he's an evil bad person. It's just the people that are worthy of that responsibility are the highest of high marks, and he's not that close, but it doesn't mean that he's a super villain per se. And the U.S. agent in the comics isn't a super villain. He's a jerk and he'll cross lines and he's not the most fun guy to be around. But I mean, he is still part of the Avengers, at certain parts of times, So I thought that like having him have this moment, I think that him being a character that you kind of like whenever he shows up, you're like you kind of roll your eyes. Oh, here's this clown, he could probably help. He's useful, but like he's kind of a jerk and he's an idiot. Like I kind of like where they've kind of reset his character with him entering this fight. I didn't think they would go this far. I agree. I thought that they would be more full-tailed. He's a bad guy, bad person. He's going to come in and he's going to want revenge, not just for Carly, but he's also going to want to take out Sam and Bucky for them taking the shield back. And we didn't see that at all.
Yeah, no, we didn't see that. I like what they did with his character. I was not sure they would redeem him, at least not in this show, but they did. And I thought they did it. I thought that it was executed really well, honestly. I thought it was executed really well. His character had a lot of nuance throughout the whole series. There was a lot of nuance. You're kind of back and forth with him, right? I mean, when he kills the guy, obviously you're not like, okay, he probably shouldn't have killed the guy. But like when, throughout the series, you're like, okay, you see he's not an evil guy. Like now he's not like, some mustache twirly evil guy that's trying to do bad stuff. He wants to be Captain America. He doesn't know how to be Captain America because he's just in terms of who he is, he's not Captain America.
Right.
And Sam's trying to tell him that, Bucky's trying to tell him that. But yeah, I thought he was great in this episode. I thought he was great in that fight. Again, showed how he was flawed. Once he had that moment, he had that one moment where he had the chance to either save the people that were going to fall on the truck or go after Carly. He had to make a choice. And he chose the people, and I was like, this is that moment. This is the moment where he redeems himself, where he chooses, you know what, I'm not going to go off the deep end.
Right.
I didn't know what he was going to do. I thought he might just go after Carly.
And this isn't, because sometimes you talk about redeeming somebody, and it's like Kylo Ren, where it's like, really? I mean,
it wasn't.
Are they really redeemed? Yeah.
Yeah. But like this feels like, look, he made a mistake. It was obviously very bad, but that doesn't seem like a character that can be redeemed.
In some ways, when you saw what he did in that redeeming moment, it almost in some ways makes the U.S. agent moment almost there's a little bit of heartbreak in there because you're like, okay, not the greatest guy. There's issues with him, but there's something there that is redeemable, and his entanglement with Valentina De Fontaine kind of makes you like, okay, and she's kind of giving him everything he wanted, but what's the catch to this? And is he like the kind of character who can look at this and be like, this is not good, or what we're doing is not above board? He doesn't feel like he's that kind of person. So there's like a little bit that tint of heartbreak. It's almost like, man, if Sam and Bucky actually did bring him under his wing and did kind of keep him in the fold, maybe he could be a good guy and a good hero. But who knows what Valentina's doing, especially when you know that she's involved in whatever happened with those flag smashers that Zemo was able to get crossed off.
He still might die. There's a good chance of that.
Yeah. John Walker?
Yeah.
I don't think anytime soon, but we'll see.
I definitely feel like he could die in a movie, like in the next Captain America movie.
Moment. Look, if he dies in something else,
right. I mean, he'll be in the next movie. He'll be in something else. I'm saying, I think he could definitely die in that project, and perhaps like Absolutely. Now us feeling for him in a way
because they set him up as someone who's so complicated,
right,
and like so, especially if they're gonna put him on some kind of evil team or something, or some questionable team. You can see him as being, the guy that's not so evil, but ends up, being sacrificed in some horrible way.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that well, first of all, I mean, again, also credit to him because I don't think they don't win that. They don't save the day if he's not there.
Nope.
So I think that's the that's the biggest tip of the cap for him. But yeah, I'm of the mindset that they're gonna go with a Dark Avengers project with him. I think that's what she's recruiting them for. I mean, they've mentioned that they want her to play a sort of Nick Fury kind of character.
That's what they said.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, they want to play quote unquote darker Nick Fury, and I'm like, all right,
Oh well,
not really on the nose
what,
there.
what does that mean?
Yeah, if you're a darker Nick Fury, Nick Fury is someone in the Avengers. You know, 1 + 1 = 2. But yeah, I mean, if you've got him as your Captain America figure, you may end up getting, Yelena from Black Widow. It could be Taskmaster from Black Widow. We know.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we haven't, obviously we do Hero Talk. We talk about all the news of the week, but I mean, even when you hear the word of Venom coming to the Disney Plus app, and people wondering, is there some kind of deal? There may already be a deal, but is this another sign that perhaps what Venom and that character and more of the other adjacent Spider-Man characters will become canon in the MCU? There is that thought of, well, Venom was a part of that Dark Avengers team playing Spider-Man, and we know Spider-Man's a little caught up right now. I mean, is there a chance that he becomes the Spider-Man for this Dark Avengers team if that is where they go? This is a lot of options.
Or is he Agent Venom?
Or is he Agent Venom? Exactly.
I mean, and especially since that Venom character wasn't nearly as evil.
Yeah, he wasn't. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Ghost is still out there. Again, she mentioned Zemo. She called Zemo a friend.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's people out there. I mentioned, Blonsky's Abomination is supposed to come back, and She-Hulk. Red Hulk could possibly be on the table as well. So yeah, that's what I'm guessing. And again, some of it could be the Thunderbolts, but I don't think that you bring in Julia Louis-Dreyfus to, set up the Thunderbolts. I don't think that makes any sense. Why would they be called the Thunderbolts? I mean, you can do something with that.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, unless Ross is working with her,
Right. Then it seems like, why isn't Ross doing his own recruiting? I don't know.
Maybe it would be because he's, like I said, remember, it wasn't the last time we saw him, he was like a Secretary of State. Like, maybe he can't actually be, maybe it's like, I mean, the Thunderbolts are like, Marvel's Suicide Squad, their task force.
Yeah.
So, maybe there is a government element to it, but like, it's a very clandestine thing. It's not like his public face can be on it.
Right.
But he still refers to them as his team, and maybe Valentina is the kind of middle person in between there. It's all possible. I don't know, but just this is a possibility. I think we'll talk more about U.S. Agent when we get to that moment a little bit later. I do want to bring in Sharon Carter in the fold as the other person that joins the fight. Her joining the fight made sense. I do feel like it did feel a little just like, all right, we're just putting everybody in the mix here. It was just like, she's in Madripoor. That's a long ways away from New York City. And last time I saw her, she was on the phone with Batroc. Like, I want to say it was that day, or it wasn't that day. It was the day before. So it's like, so then she got on a flight immediately. As soon as she got off that phone, she would have had to get on a flight and fly over. I don't care if you could be on the fastest jet. Like that was a little bit tough to understand. Her in the mix, but you knew she kind of had to be, given what they've been setting up with her throughout this whole episode. And we see her kind of moving through the crowd, helping them in some ways, but in some ways seems to kind of just be kind of like eyeing the situation and kind of monitoring the situation as opposed to actually really helping them in some instances. And then eventually leads to that showdown she has with Carly in that abandoned building, where it becomes revealed that she is the power broker, and she reveals that, and Batroc, knowing that, wants some more money, and in return he just gets a bullet in the brain, and that's it for him. So no more Batroc for the rest of this. So
you telling me we're getting GSP versus Adesanya?
Maybe, man. Maybe it's fine. Maybe GSP. 70? Yeah, he's gonna have to get the check from somewhere. It's not coming from Marvel anymore unless they're doing some kind of throwback, content. But what did you guys make of just that reveal? Before we'll get to, I guess, later on the post credit. But what did you make of that reveal of her being the power broker and her making that call to shoot homeboy, and eventually during that fight scene with Sam and Carly, as they're having a pretty good fight scene. I thought, again, I don't think Carly's ever quite worked as a villain, but I thought that fight scene had the right levels of emotion and intensity that it still worked as a kind of a last fight. and her making the call obviously to shoot her and shoot her and kill her. I guess what did you guys make? I am of the feeling right now that she is a Skrull. But
Sharon?
what do you guys think? Yes, that is my feeling today. I just feel like right now, just her movements and everything, it's just too suspect for me to just think that this is just like, this just doesn't feel like the person that we've been introduced to. I know she's been through a lot, but I think that there's something going on here.
I hope you're right.
Wow. I hope she's a Skrull.
No, I mean,
we haven't heard that on this podcast in a long time.
Well, I mean, you know me. You know, I don't like the cuddly Skrulls, right? I don't like the happy-go-lucky teddy bear Skrulls, where it's like, oh, where's a Skrull? I need a Skrull to help me out. You know, I'm not used to that.
Friendly neighborhood Skrull.
and one of the reasons why I feel like one of the things I thought I took note of was, you know, I know she was a fugitive, but I mean, she clearly helped them, and like she wouldn't refuse, she wouldn't take medical attention. She wouldn't let anyone see her wound. Like, some of that stuff was suspicious to me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
We never saw the wound. We never saw what it looked like. Like, we saw Carly, but she just kept getting covered. She kept saying, "I'm fine. I can't do anything. Leave me alone." Like, I don't know. There's something about that was suspect.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, we know Secret Invasion's coming. You know, I wasn't the biggest fan of her being the power broker. I'm not the biggest fan of that. You know, I guess in terms of critiques of the series or the show, not the biggest fan of that, of her just being, she's a power broker now, so she's a bad guy now. So, you know, Sharon Carter, Agent Carter's, you know, great niece, whatever.
Aunt Peggy.
Niece, Aunt Peggy. She's an evil now. So it's like, all right, you know. I mean, they
staying in the legacy, man.
Yeah, staying in the legacy.
Yeah,
you watch Agent Carter, now you know what came of it. I mean, look, it's you know, it's unfortunate. But you know, they didn't do her right. So I mean, I guess in terms of the story, it makes sense. But you know, definitely not something I wanted to see. So you know, it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, I guess those are my thoughts on her character. I wasn't the biggest fan of Carly's character. I was hoping more would come of that. When she died, I was kind of like, all right. So I guess that's it.
Yeah, I remember I told Shamari, I was like, yeah, that didn't work. That whole Carly.
Yeah, immediately.
The whole Flag Smasher, the whole thing just didn't work. Yeah. You know, and it happens.
And like when we say it didn't work, like it didn't work in regard to them individual, like them as characters.
Individual characters.
Yeah, right. I think what they represented
and
how.
Fine.
Yeah, yeah, and as a threat, they were even fine. I think what they represented and how it painted the lens for Sam's, you know, just killer monologue talking to those lawmakers. Like, they served their purpose. I don't think that their goal was to just have people serve their purpose. I think they wanted them to be great villains that we all loved. So, like, in that sense, I think they still fell short. But what they represented and how that tied into Sam's journey to eventually becoming a black man holding the Captain America shield and calling himself Captain America, and how them along with Isaiah Bradley and all that, it all came together. In that sense, it worked fine because they served their purpose. But yeah, as as villains and characters that we cared about, it never, like you said, it never got there. I agree with Kendall, and I said last week. I remember I was like, it's not gonna happen. We're too far gone at this point for that to work.
Yeah, you know, I just feel like I probably could have used a couple of scenes, maybe of showing like them getting displaced. You know, like just things to show like visually why, you know, they've been so like, you know, they have all this pent up anger.
The biggest thing is being why Carly, why her as the leader, why a teenager.
We still don't get that.
For me, that was the biggest thing. So it sounds like Enfys Nest is 2 for 2 for you.
Enfys Nest, you know,
Enfys Nest, Carly Morgenthau.
I mean, you know, similar characters.
I mean,
it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me the biggest thing is probably her individually, because at first I wouldn't say I wasn't buying what you were saying, Kendall, but I was kind of like, we gotta give it time, right? They're gonna show us why her individual, why she's the catalyst,
right?
That's bringing people I would compare it to Amon in one of our previous in Amon and the Equalists, season 1 of Korra.
Yeah.
And the thing with Amon was you could see they demonstrated through his speeches, through his rallies and whatnot. Yeah. This guy can speak to people.
Yeah.
He knows how to get people to follow him. Like, and you saw it, you heard it, it made sense. With her, you don't see it. She just speaks to her little group and they're doing stuff, and then I guess they post something online. They got a guy on the internet. Next thing you know, she has like millions of people willing to die for her and do all this stuff. And
they're all super soldiers, but yet they're like intimidated.
A lot of them are super soldiers.
I'm like, why are you intimidated by her? You're all super soldiers.
Yeah, and they're all intimidated.
Yeah, but she said,
we gotta die for this, and they're like, I guess so. Yes, ma'am. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You guys are really gonna do this? Again, I didn't get it.
It's funny when and it's funny because like even at the end, like when she tried to rally troops one more time, she says one world, and they're kind of looking around like I don't know.
Right, exactly.
And she's like one world, and then he's like one people. Well, they but like, and I know that was a way to kind of show that maybe they thought that she was kind of now going on the deep end. She's talking about just murdering hostages just now for the hell of it because their plan hasn't gone to the length that they would have wanted. It was something that just came up a little bit short. I want to shout out Erin Kellerman though. I mean, I think what they gave her, I think she did the best she could.
No, you can tell she was very good.
She's a very talented actress. Great with the action stuff. I mean, she was awesome. There's nothing about her in terms of her as an actress. I thought the performance was great. It was just what they gave her. It was lacking. Again, we needed that. We needed to see more of that charisma that would make her someone that you would want to follow.
The Sharon Carter thing. Yeah, I mean, in terms of that, I mean, look.
And she kind of painted it as Carly was somehow like she had taken in these kids. She had taken in
then she recruited them to be a part of her operation.
Yeah, and then somehow they saw a bigger vision, and they splintered off.
I guess she was the one that turned them into super soldiers, and they were like, we're gonna do our own thing, and I can see how that all made sense. But again, I feel like we could have used some of those scenes, some of that dialogue, and some of that, like, early on. Like, it was all very cryptic. And, when you give it to me at the end, and I'm already kind of not really feeling the Sharon Carter powerbroker thing, I'm like, all right,
Do you think that Spellman and the crew thought that was going to be way more of a surprise than it was?
I don't even think so. Okay. I think a lot of it works similar to the Agatha Harkness reveal in WandaVision, where you know who Agnes is, and but that one it just worked.
Right, and that's like it's how you it's about execution. It doesn't matter. The surprise is not as important. It's just how you execute it. And here you had perfect execution for something that wasn't a surprise. Yeah. Here the execution I think was a little.
Because that was always the thing. I think she was obviously candidate number one in terms of who the power broker is. It's kind of like, all right, to me, it's not Sharon. Who else could it be? Conversation. Mm-hmm. But I think what we all wanted to know was, all right, assuming it's her, like, why? Is it just the stated reasons? You guys left me for dead, so I had to do what I had to do, and that's all they gave us. And if that's all you're gonna give me, it's fine. Again, in story,
it's hard. It's hard to it's fine, but it's like it's not the most like inspiring story that like now I'm gonna lead a life of crime. Story. It's like okay, really?
And I feel like they came into this story. They came into this Falcon Winter Soldier project. They didn't have to do this. Like they didn't have to make Sharon Carter evil. They didn't have to make her the power broker. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering what is the reason for Marvel to decide to go down this route. Now, EJ's theory about her being a Skrull, it's possible, especially when you lay out the not wanting a medic, part of it. You're like, all right, sometimes you want to throw in some of those Easter eggs, but I'm just wondering, like, who is she talking to at the end? Like, if she's a Skrull, like, it didn't sound like. I feel like it would have been in that scene more like.
But I think I think they purposely. I think she's a Skrull. I think that's the leading candidate. I also think that she could just be evil. I also still think she could be a double agent. But that's like the least of it, but I think that is still possible. Like out of those three, I think that's the third, but I think that's still I'm leaving that in there. I think in terms of who she was talking to, I think there's a great chance it could have been a Skrull. No, a Skrull King. It could have been, maybe it's one of the main characters that we'll be seeing in Secret Invasion. The idea that she's working for someone or working with someone, like it makes sense for the Skrulls to want to amass as much power as they can through various different groups and manipulate.
I just wonder. I just assume
destabilize.
That, like,
at the end of the day, that's all it seems like this group was doing. It was destabilizing.
The other part of the Skrull thing is that I always assume that the Skrulls already were there. Like we're already here. Like I didn't think that they needed Sharon Carter to infiltrate, the government.
No, but I mean, here's someone who was out on the outskirts, so very easy to replace, and also someone who's in with the Avengers. Right. She's a valuable, like in theory, if this is what was happening, she's a valuable asset to have, because she's not going to be someone who's super in the middle of it. Yeah, they're looking for her, but the fact that she's in the wind makes sense because she's trying to hide. But
like she was talking as if, all right, now we have access to the government, and it's like, you guys, what you guys been doing this whole time? Is this the start of Secret Invasion? Now, what I will say is that I think when Val is talking to John Walker and she's being very cryptic about what's going on. She's like, look, the people aren't gonna need a Captain America. Things are about to get very weird. And you're like, what is she talking about? I think very weird is her talking about Secret Invasion. I think she knows on some level. And when she says things are about to get very weird, I think she knows that people aren't who they are. People don't even realize that people aren't who they are. Like, I don't know. Like, that's my guess. I think that was the Secret Invasion tie in there. But it to me, like, the only way that Sharon Carter post-credit scene really works is if she's a Skrull.
Really?
It was kind of why I think that
right.
was happening.
You gotta give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, hopefully she's a Skrull. Like,
I think there is a chance that I don't want to say that's the only. I think that's the most.
Yeah, that's it.
But if once again, if you're talking to some clandestine person, I mean, that's an opportunity to expand the Marvel universe. So I don't want to say in the vacuum it can't work. I'm like, oh, who is she talking to? I mean, she's talking to. I don't think she's talking to this person, but she's talking to Doctor Doom. She's talking who is she dealing with? That okay, maybe this person's insertion into the story now could make things very interesting. But I just felt like I just like this idea that, okay, now we'll have access to government, documents and confidential records. I guess you could think, well, every villain organization would want that. But if we don't think she's Hydra, that just doesn't make sense to me that she would be Hydra. I just don't know who else would that be of value to. That makes sense within what Marvel's doing, unless it's something we just don't know about, something that hasn't been fully integrated. But when I think of, okay, this is a person who amassed power in a certain region of the world, now talking to someone else who either is an equal or even higher above her, saying that now that I'm in this position, we're gonna have more power within our movement. I don't know who, if it's not Hydra, which I don't think makes sense, I don't know who it could be besides a Skrull. It's going to be something that we don't know yet. And if something, it could be cool, but I just don't know what it is. I don't think that she's working with Val. I don't think whatever that's going on. I don't think I think that's separate. But whatever's happening with this, I don't know what's going on. But my guess would be Skrulls, and it would be the first time. Because think about this, Kendall. This would be the first time we have a Skrull that's not cute and cuddly and whatever, and you didn't reveal them. Yeah. Like this actually is way more effective to do it this way, because all of the Skrulls that reveal themselves, they're all cool peoples. They're all good peoples. They all, you invite them to the cookout. They're not anybody that's dangerous. Right. So here's a person where we don't know for sure they're a Skrull. We haven't seen any reveal.
If she's a Skrull,
but that reveal when it happens will be more like, oh snap.
So I feel
what
like
is she doing?
If they were going to reveal that she was a Skrull, I think they should have done it now. That's my. I think it's
yeah.
kind of funny that she's using face-changing, shape-shifting technology. And it's like, if you're a shapeshifter, like, why are you? I mean, I know why, like, it's for the act, but like, it's kind of like hard. But
Mhm.
I feel like, imagine if that
I mean,
last
who's to
scene
say
she
that that
walks
was
off
even?
and then she like
Who's to
all of
say
a
that
sudden
that
she
was?
shapeshifts to somebody else. You're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh! Like now the conversation is totally different. It's not, is she a
But I mean,
scroll? Hopefully she's not
sometimes,
gonna be
but like,
cuddly.
yeah, but sometimes you might want to hold that card. Like you might want to hold that
Yeah.
card for another project or something else.
Cause
So
like
Yeah.
they were dancing around the power broker thing for weeks to the point where now it was like, all right, so Sharon's the power broker. Like when you dance around the scroll thing, like if she is a scroll, it's like, oh so Sharon's a scroll. You know, I wouldn't have guessed that she was a scroll last week. It was a possibility, but I wouldn't have
yeah,
guessed that we would have gotten it. But now, like you said, now it's at the foreground, at the forefront.
I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Kendall. I mean, I think that. I mean, I think what made Secret Invasion, and I know EJ, I know you followed Secret Invasion from the beginning. I think part of what made Secret Invasion so impactful was how sudden it was,
Right.
and how realizing that someone is a scroll made you go, oh, wait a second, right? And then you go back and you look and you see what they were doing before, and you're like, oh, wow. So it was like a whole big, it was like a much longer, it was a long game, you know.
Right.
So not revealing it right away just makes it that much more impactful. So I think that may be what they're going for. I hope she's a scroll. I don't like her as a villain. um
I
I
don't.
don't know if I don't think it's the actress. I think she's playing Sharon Carter.
Yeah, they're giving her what
She's playing
yeah.
Sharon Carter being evil,
yeah.
and it just doesn't work for me. Just
Right.
just as a
The
villain.
person that they've already set
I
up.
don't take when she revealed herself as a power broker, I was like, I can't take her seriously as a villain. And I don't know why. I
It's
mean,
just,
I don't know.
I mean, I think it's because we just haven't seen enough to understand how this journey began. I mean, this was a person who was,
Probably,
I
yeah.
mean, literally again, just putting her life and livelihood on the line to do the right thing. So the fact that you would go from that person, I know you're jaded, but you go from that person to being a crime boss is a leap that just is hard for me to just hear you say a little bit of, oh, I didn't get a pardon and now I'm a crime
Yeah.
boss. That's a leap. When sometimes, and like, look, it's art. Sometimes people do things that don't make sense, that don't add up, that we don't connect to. It's possible, but so a lot of times though, when things don't make sense, there's gotta be a reason for it not to make sense. And the way I saw it, I felt like there was a difference in Emily Van Camp's performance. I thought that there was. She just didn't seem like she was like, I know she might say she seemed like she was playing Sharon who's evil, and I guess in some ways but like she just almost to me at times it didn't seem like Sharon Carter. Like the way she was talking to Carly, like I've never seen Sharon talk like that ever. And maybe again, someone turns evil, they just talk different. But even the way they wrote her dialogue, I'm like, this doesn't sound like Sharon Carter. Like the slickness of it, we could have been like, that's just not her. Like even if she was evil, I just feel like she'd be way less performative.
Yeah.
Way less swagger behind the bragging of what they could have been. That's never been Sharon. That's why I felt like when I watched it, I'm like, I don't think that's Sharon Carter. I don't think that's Sharon Carter. I think that's someone else.
I just hope that whenever we get the Secret Invasion characters, assuming they're not all in the Secret Invasion, which is a whole other thing that we can talk about. But I just hope whenever we start getting the scrolls and they're evil scrolls, like I hope that we don't see it coming. Like I hope that.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with Sharon Carter is that like once now that we see it coming, it's just not gonna hit. If we find out that there's a character that we've been seeing, imagine if we find out Bucky was a scroll, we'd be like, wait, what?
I think we'll still get some of those. I mean, when it came to the comic, I mean that's what happened with the comic was that there were some that were obvious, like Spider-Woman. It was like this could definitely be a big candidate, but with like Hank Pym, when he comes out and he shoots Mr. Fantastic in the face, you're like, oh, okay, Hank Pym. Who would have thought? And then and to be fair, like Marvel had its criticism for like, did you do enough surprises? But the way I remember, there were some people that were obvious, and there were some people that were like, oh wow, that person's a Skrull. The problem they had, I think, was that there were those people. Sometimes it was like, oh, but nobody cares this person's a Skrull. That was some of the issue. But there were surprises, And I think you'll probably see the same thing. You'll be some people like a Sharon Carter and maybe some other folks we'll see down the line that are like, yeah, I mean, come on, we see that. But then there was some people like, oh, really, him or her? Like, I think that's how it will go. But I do want to. Yeah. Sorry, go one more thing, Sharon.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, I agree. I basically echo your sentiments. I think there will be some Skrulls that will be like, okay, yeah, I figured there was at least a high probability that this was an evil Skrull. And then there'll be other people that will just come out of Skrulls and you're like, ooh, well, I didn't see that coming. And then you have to go back and watch what they did before.
Yeah. I also think that the first one needs to be a surprise. Whoever that person is. Which is why, if they would have revealed that to be Sharon Carter, that would have been like, it would have been a shock, but it would have been like, oh, wow, okay, this is what we're doing.
I just think they've done too. The reason why I wasn't lasting on this, because I know we spent a lot of time on this. The only other reason why I wasn't tripping about them not doing that was because we've just, the last 2 or 3 things we saw with Marvel dealt with a Skrull reveal at the end. Spider-Man, Skrull reveal. WandaVision, Skrull reveal. Like, I don't want after every episode, every show, or every project, it's like, okay, who's the Skrull? We're gonna learn this in this project. I don't want that. Like, to me, again, to Shamari's credit, I think it kind of like takes away from the surprise. I want some people to just pull up one day again and shoot Mr. Fantastic in the face and turn out they're a Skrull. Like, oh my god, that would be crazy. Like, I want that. I want those things to happen. I don't want it to just be like, okay, now we know who all the teams are. So once Secret Invasion happens, we know who's going to be in it and who's going to turn. Like, I don't want that. So that was why, in terms of them not revealing Sharon, it would have been a big moment, yes. But I think there's value to not doing it that way. I do want to make a couple of quick notes before we do our scores for this episode. As I mentioned before, the scene of Sam laying into the senators and the Congress people and the representatives about their a call to action, essentially, for them to be better and to do better and to understand that them kind of just waving their wand and telling people where to go and what to do, and without really any kind of engagement or understanding of the struggles people are going through, can't go on anymore. And I think that it really set up. It was a great monologue, well written, well delivered by Anthony Mackie, and I think it's gonna set up a really interesting, cool Captain America moving forward, where you'll have a Captain America who's way more. The other Cap definitely challenged authority, but I just feel like it seems like Sam's going to challenge him in maybe even more profound ways. With Sam, with Steve, as great as Steve is, it was a lot of just like, don't go on this mission. No, I'm going to go. I got to save the people. With Sam, it seems more about like, what are you actually doing? And how are you helping people? Or are you helping people at all? Steve, he questioned Nick Fury a little bit with like, the surveillance and stuff. But besides that, it was sometimes very much like, I'm viewing this from my perspective and how it will impact me and my ability to keep people safe. Not as much, how are you doing your job to make sure everybody is being treated justly? And I think, this battle that Sam fought, he came out great, but I think it'll set up other future battles where it may be a lot more difficult and challenging for him. And he says, I know there are people who hate me, whatever. I think we're gonna see that. I think we're gonna see more pushback, more people being like, "Who the hell are you? To be telling us what to do, or whatever. Like who made you Captain America, literally." And that's gonna be an interesting thing. They kind of set the tea leaves for with that Captain America. This is a Captain America who's, sorry people who get mad at this. This is a political Captain America. And I think that this is going to be something that's going to provoke way more engaging commentary than maybe what we even had with Steve Rogers and when he pushed back against authority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I also really like the scene with him and Isaiah Bradley.
Oh, yeah, love that scene.
It's a top.
That's top tier MCU.
Yeah, it's a top 10, top 15 MCU scene of all time.
Has to be top 10.
I gotta apologize to the people, because last week I said that Bucky reunion with the elder gentleman about his son would be would be more emotional than Isaiah Bradley from last week. Which I mean that's irrelevant because the Isaiah Bradley scene we got this week was man. I mean just
oh boy,
you want to talk about powerful and really just like emotional.
Knock you off your feet.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
Especially because they show him so early in the series being
he's so
angry about what happened.
Yes.
And rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
And so to see
and they
just the progression. I mean, they did it.
And they bring it full circle. You see Sam walking through that cat museum, and you see Steve, you see the bike, you see the shield,
you just kind of know.
And you see Isaiah Bradley just in a house in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Just angry and upset with just a house and his grandson to his name.
Yeah.
And then they give him that monument.
Yeah.
And
I still think that was their final chance to show us even just a little bit of like, flashback.
You're not gonna be satisfied.
It's still time. Still got the Young Avengers coming up.
There's a new movie coming out, so we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, and we got a Cap 4 coming.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, that was really cool. Also, shout out to Zemo's butler.
Shout out.
Didn't realize. I mean, when they blew up the last bit of Flag Smashers, I was like, who is this old guy?
Right.
I couldn't tell. I thought like, teasing like there's another guy, there's another figure. I was excited, and then they showed Zemo. I was like, oh, that was Zemo's butler. Wow, It makes sense. But yeah,
I mean, I'm telling you, he's evil Bruce Wayne. Like I really like how this Baron Zemo. Like I really like everything they've done with him, and to see that his butler also can get busy when he needs to is perfect. Like I love it.
Yeah,
and obviously with Valentina name dropping him again, I think that whatever she's involved with, he'll be a part of probably. And shout out to again another great costume design with U.S. Agent. I like how he makes a joke that he's in black, but like that's what we wanted to see.
But black.
Yeah. But that's what we wanted to see. We wanted to see the U.S. Agent costume. The Captain America costume he had a lot of the same ilks, but taking off the A, putting him in a darker color like black, like it's just like perfect. And so that a lot of moments, and in the moment with Bucky and Yuri, all these moments just really kind of just delivered. Like what I said in my tweet about this episode, I just like, man, this show just like delivered on like all of the right notes. Like we knew what they had to get to. We knew what they had to get done and get accomplished before the episode was over. And you sit as it's over and you're like, they pretty much got all the things that we needed, It's hard to really sit there and say, oh, was there anything that they just didn't address or didn't get to or that was so unenjoyable? Besides maybe, again, we can talk about the Power Broker stuff. Everything else, they pretty much did what they had to do. It was a really strong
I was surprised that they... I was surprised they went as far as to, change the tagline at the end to Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Oh, I love that. Again, you want to talk about another like almost like emotional moment? Like that was like really cool to me. Like, and to me, as they were showing it, I was like, they gotta change it. That's what I thought in my head. So they gotta change it to Captain America and Winter Soldier. This is what the show story is really.
Right.
And when they did, I was like, that's you want to talk about the chef's kiss? That's
it's just
perfect.
Smart. Yeah, it's just smart TV making. And then they announced that we're getting Captain America 4.
Yeah.
On the same day. Apologies to the people who hadn't watched the episode that saw the report and was like, well, I guess he becomes Cap.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And shout out to Malcolm Spellman, who will be also leading that project, who did a great job as a showrunner on this show.
What do we? I mean, I don't know if we have any guesses or any predictions or anything. I will say the deadline says that Steve Rogers or Chris Evans will not be in that one.
Yes,
which that was the first thing I thought was, so that's the Chris Evans secret project that they were putting him in. They said that it's not. Okay. Which now I think he's going to be Doctor Strange. That's my guess. But any guesses on what this Captain America 4 will be, or will we get Elijah Bradley as Patriot? Will we get Joaquin Torres as Falcon? These are all questions that we make.
Yeah, I
And,
mean, I feel like there are two projects to me that kind of make me kind of well, one, I do think that Eli Bradley becoming Patriot, maybe in like a Captain America movie, is probably something I could see coming. But I feel like they're kind of like two big projects, because all these projects in the future have like these projects that I feel like they're tethered to. That's kind of hard for me to say anything about what it will be until we see this. To me, for this project is going to be Doctor Strange a little bit, but even more so. Again, I'm really talking about Secret Invasion. I feel like it's like, because if Sharon's not a Skrull and there's nothing there, I mean, this absolutely could be how you lead into Captain America 4 is whatever organization Sharon is working for, and what they're doing.
I have a guess.
Like, is
I mentioned them before.
Is what the fight is.
If she's not a Skrull, she's working with the Serpent Society. It's a very popular Captain America villain. That we haven't touched. Yet. That's something I believe that's somebody that Sam Wilson's Captain America's dealt with as well. But
yeah.
If maybe she's in league with them, and that would make a little bit more sense if that's why she was like, oh, now we're in the government,
Yeah.
with the Skrulls, I'm like, oh wait, now you guys are in the government? How long have you guys been on Earth? But if it's she's like a part of some shadowy organization, it would be kind of like, all right, so another Hydra, but I'm sure Marvel could explain that in some way.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have any guesses so far. I mean, we gotta wait and see. I think there's still a lot left to happen in the MCU. We know Kang's gonna show up at some point. We know we're gonna get a lot of other crazy kind of world-ending type scenarios and crazy stuff that's gonna happen. So I think there's a lot to be seen. I know Captain America tends to be more grounded in terms of the movies. So, but yeah, I don't think we know just yet. I think a lot of what we've seen, we may get like an Eli Bradley, Patriot kind of, maybe some teases towards that, or maybe even a reveal. I don't know. But yeah, that's my prediction, is maybe we'll get something towards that. But outside of that, I don't think we're going to be getting that movie for a little while. So I think we're going to get a break. There's going to be a lot of Avengers stuff, a lot of other characters, the Spider-Man, Shang-Chi, and others. But yeah, I don't think we know just yet what they're going to do with Cap.
All right. Well, let's do final scores for the season and for this episode. So I'll go to Sham first. What do you give episode 6, One World, One People, season finale for Falcon and Winter Soldier, and what do you give the season as a whole?
I give this episode an 8.7, and I give the series an 8.5. I thought it was a very solid series. I would say there was a lot of build-up with the Flag Smashers that didn't go really much of anywhere for me. So, I mean, I thought Carly Morgenthau and that whole storyline probably could have been done much better in terms of that. And the Power Broker thing didn't go where I was hoping it would go. So that kind of brings the score down a little bit. But everything involving Bucky and Sam and Isaiah Bradley and just everything involving them was wonderfully done. So yeah, that's why I give it an 8 point. I give the series an 8.5. This episode was good. I wouldn't say it was great. Again, you had some of that stuff where I'm just like, oh, okay. But overall, it was very good. So I give the episode an 8.7, the series an 8.5.
What are you gonna?
This episode I go 7.5 for the episode. Thought it was a good finale. Good action, a little chaotic, but it did a really good job of just developing Anthony Mackie's character even more. And a lot of emotional moments, and like we mentioned, that scene at the end with Isaiah Bradley is a legendary MCU moment. Overall for the series, I'll go 8. The series gave me things that I wanted to see. Like the Isaiah Bradley and Eli Bradley story that they kind of talked about being in the show, that really worked. And seeing Sam Wilson and Bucky's character progression, both worked. Gave me things I didn't know I wanted to see, like also Zemo was another thing that obviously I wanted to see in that work. Gave me things that I didn't know I wanted to see, like Joaquin Torres. That character, somebody I wasn't expecting. That really worked. I had really no major issues with the Carly Morgenthau character. Probably shouldn't have been the main villain, but not a terrible MCU character. Got more Batroc, so there's some good things about it. Would have liked to have maybe didn't. I don't think they really hit on the Sharon Carter aspect of it. Again, the Flag Smashers probably should have been side characters. John Walker was also really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wyatt Russell deserves a lot of credit.
Oh,
Glad he'll be back. I would have liked maybe a little bit more MCU, maybe more future teases, maybe an introduction. That's not what they were going to do. Just like WandaVision, and that's, you got to reckon with that. But, no Latveria or anything. All that stuff would have been, look, people were talking that was going to be a thing, and with Madripoor being in there, we thought, so are we getting any mutants or any X-Men? None of that.
Man.
So
Can't set those expectations so high.
Yeah, so that feel like a lot of wasted episodes of New Generation Hero Talk. At least a lot of wasted topics. Talking about, all right, so what X-Men character is showing up in Falcon and Winter Soldier? But overall, though, still a win. I feel like I probably WandaVision and 8 as well. Both of them very good series. This one not as quote unquote disappointing, but overall what they were very good.
I'll go 8s all around. I'll go 8 on the finale, 8 on the season. This episode really enjoyable, really emotional moments. Sam has a killer scene talking to the GRC. The Isaiah Bradley scene is just a heart tugger and just so well done. Shout out to Carl Lumbly. He just killed it the whole season he was there. Every scene he was in, the level of emotion and the emotional toll probably took to even play that character. He deserves a ton of credit. And the action here, besides some of the dark spots, still enjoyable. Great reveal of Sam being Captain America. A lot of good stuff. Again, the Carly stuff never came around, which I expected, as I said last week. Sharon stuff, maybe she's a Skrull, but even if she is, I still don't know if this development that they've gone has worked yet, and I'm not sure if it worked in this episode. I think that there's a continuity issue where her just showing up in New York City after talking to Batroc the day before in Madripoor, a little hard for me to believe. I think it was the same day, so I think that there's an issue there. But besides that, nonetheless, a lot of good stuff in this episode. And as a season, this is a series. It's just been really enjoyable. I really do love Sam and Bucky's coming together as a true brotherhood from where they began. They start off as such adversaries, and to see them organically build this respect and friendship was really great to see. And I think the progression and the series topics and how they kind of looked at superheroing in a different lens than the normal just punch and kick the villain bad guy. And to me, if you read Captain America comic books, oftentimes this is the kind of gray areas and difficult conversation that they have with this character. That's why some of the criticism is so ridiculous. It's these are clearly folks that have never read Captain America, because literally he was created and he was fighting Nazis. He's I don't know how much more political it gets. That was his first arch nemesis was Hitler. Come on, So this character's always been kind of littered with political history being a part of it. So the way they infuse that in these very important themes, I thought they did it really seamlessly and did an excellent job. So I just really enjoyed the show as a whole. Again, kind of Carly Morgenthau kind of withstanding and Sharon withstanding. A lot to like here. And, shout out to Dora Milaje. Their inclusion middle of the season. Just
another thing I didn't know I wanted to see. But
never knew I wanted to see that, but man, it took it up to a whole nother notch. Their involvement. And Io now becomes Captain. I'm more looking forward to when next time we see her, whether it be in another Captain America project or where most likely we'll definitely see her in Black Panther, and just it brings more to the Dora Milaje, you know. So just these series are going to be instrumental to Marvel in terms of building out their roster and kind of giving everybody the kind of development that they need. So just good stuff all around. So I give both the episode and the season an 8. But that's going to do it for this edition of our Falcon and Winter Soldier episode recaps and reviews. Man, we've been on quite a journey just from doing our WandaVision reviews and then basically going straight from there, which was 7 weeks in a row, to then coming here 6 weeks in a row for Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I know we got a little bit of time before we got Loki, so you probably won't be seeing hero content on this channel in terms of those hero recap shows on this channel for a little bit. But man, thank you guys so much for rocking out with us, for the people who have stayed from the beginning or the people that are just coming on to the last episode to hear reaction to this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you catch all of our content, not just on YouTube, but on our podcast, New Generation Podcast Network, where we do Hero Talk every week. You can find that podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And if you like this video, make sure you give us a like and subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. Once again, I'm EJ for Shamari, for Kendall. Take it easy, guys. Peace.